Welcome to the Medical Support to Irregular Warfare podcast, an initiative to discuss and educate the evolution of medical support in peace, security, and conflict in uncommon environments. Points, perspectives, and opinions voiced here are solely those of the contributors and do not represent any formal association or government entity. We do everything possible to ensure the information and discussion is sound, comprehensive, and from the most credible sources. Good day to all, and welcome back to the MSIW podcast. We appreciate your interest, participation, and your contribution here. Ladies and gentlemen, today we bring you a unique and well-presented experience with military medical assistance and foreign internal defense missions. This presentation was given during the 2026 SOMA conference and sparked good debate both there and in other conferences after, which is always very healthy for our community. And I really think you'll see that this presentation demonstrates some of the differences between concepts and reality when you try to apply principles in the real world. I'd like to introduce Mr. Serigne S. Sal is a former Italian Special Operations medic with extensive experience and deployments worldwide. He is a nationally registered paramedic and holds a bachelor's in health sciences and a diploma in special operations medical care. Sal is now an emergency response director for high-risk environments with a focus on operational medicine. Sal, we appreciate you being here, sir. Please go ahead, and we look forward to your thoughts.
Thank you, Mike, for your introduction and for inviting me to be a part of this podcast. And just want to do a quick disclosure regarding everything I will be presenting today. So this reflects my personal views and reflection of, and not the official doctrine or position of any organization I've served or have worked with. So now we can start. The unseen role of soft medics in military assistance. When I talk about the unseen work, I want to focus on the part of the soft medic role we rarely talk about. Beyond manuals, doctrine, all the not seen realities that formal teaching doesn't always capture. Things that we take for granted, human, cultural, they can look almost invisible, but they can really change the outcomes. So the question is, what makes medical training continue after soft medic leaves? And this is a lot more than medicine. Things that we rarely talk about can determine our success or our failure. A moment of realization. So I had a moment of realization when I was deployed, and it was a situation where I was sitting on a supply crates in a canvas wooden panel room far from home, surrounded by uniform as different as their language. One of the partner unit members looked at me and said, "Thank you for your life-saving teachings, but for us, life is just suffering, just a passage." After this sentence, I stopped for a moment and I was teaching how to save a life without first understanding what really life meant for him. That human lesson changed the way I approached my job as soft medic in the past. Beyond the clinical. The job was never to deliver only medical knowledge. We had to translate it. We had to make that knowledge meaningful in context, into people's system, purpose, and logistic. Only when teaching becomes meaningful, only then medical lesson could really connect. The goal is to develop their own capability. The capability has to become theirs, not ours, and translate medical knowledge into partner-first reality. So during my experience, I had recurring challenges, and the first challenges was always understanding the human context, their culture, their values, their motivation, and the way of thinking. Then, without the trust, even a good advice can meet resistance, expecting people to change the way they had worked for years. Then I met operational friction. Resources and evacuation often changed what was possible, so I had to work for what was generally available and what they can really use. Then whether it will work still after us, and what they can sustain. Because if you go and you do just a good course, may still remain only good course. Before we talk about medicine, I wanted to mention a citation from Sun Tzu in The Art of War. The concept is the moral law. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler so that they will follow him regardless of their lives. The point is alignment and purpose. A force needs a real purpose behind because purpose shapes decisions. It influences how people act when everything becomes difficult. Only then is efficient to build capability. Medicine has to support the real purpose of the unit. Before medicine, before equipment or planning, I want to understand what gives that unit a purpose. Operational reality. Many of the medical protocols we teach assume a system that already exists. For example, rapid evacuation, reliable logistics, advanced medical support, and continuous resupply. Those assumptions simply do not exist always. The protocol isn't wrong, but the environment is different. Even apply a tourniquet could become a dilemma, more than an ethical decision, more than a clinical decision, and then it becomes operational. As we see in recent scenarios, is apply this to the reality. My opinion is to do the best possible solution within the reality they face. Principles over protocols. Protocols not always is capability. Performing a protocol today does not guarantee tomorrow. Even though T3C remain the reference point for me and remain the North Stars, across the world, reality changes. Different units face different constraints. So if the protocol you are trying to follow is difficult to apply, the principles gives the direction when conditions change. The principle leave them a way to think and adapt. And I wanted to leave them a way to think, not just steps to remember. Trust before training. People usually form an opinion even before the first lesson begins. That's why first contact is important. The interpreter has to be accepted, not just bilingual. Then another principle is ask before telling. I learn more by asking questions than by giving answer. Trust make you earn credibility. Trust comes through consistency and solving problems. Only then change become much more easier to discuss. Reality before doctrine. Condition determine what the environment they will be facing. For example, if I apply treatment like a tourniquet or performing a medical procedure, I have to already think about what is the consequence in that specific condition. Then I look to the constraints. Practice medical care with limited equipment, delayed evacuation, and austere support. And at last, plan for what you cannot. Doctrine must be flexible enough to prepare people for operational reality. Ownership creates sustainability. After we leave, I kept asking what would happen once support ended. Where will they get it? Local system, market? Could they replace it through their own system? And regarding equipment, training, maintenance, and supply, the capability also had to be taught and maintained locally. Otherwise, as the history has shown, we have just created dependency. In the end, for me, the role of medics in military system is much more than a provider of care or an instructor. It's about understand the context before introducing a change, is the capability to build trust, because this trust creates space, and the soft medic has to translate medical knowledge into the partner force reality, and is an enabler of autonomy and a bridge between worlds, so they can think, adapt, and solve without us. That is when the capability truly belongs to the partner. If it only works when we are there, it was never a real solution.
Sal, excellent. Thank you. Just as good as many times as I hear it as the first time that I heard it. Thank you for your time. Sal, you said one word or intent several times that I felt was very important and wise. Systems, building systems. Will you speak more to that?
Yes, so talking about systems, a medical capability is bigger than individual procedure. It's not just an isolated skill. A system is training. People need to know how to use the capability and equipment. The right equipment has to be generally available. A lot of time, you see in like an inventory, and then I stopped to look at inventory. But I started to look at what was generally available, usable, and maintainable. Also, as well as command decision and evacuation, and to complete the system. The final test is, does it work without the support? So if you are able to develop a system, it has to work without our support. That is the question that tells me if it's sustainable or not. If a system only works with us, it's just a training without independence.
Yes, sir. Excellent. It's the sum of all the parts. Absolutely. Now, can you also share some more thoughts on building trust before training or prior to training?
So regarding trust, as I was saying before changing anything, I need to understand the people. A good way is to find a common ground and sharing experience and focus on what makes you similar rather than what makes you different. And this creates a ground where you can, you build space and basically establish a good relationship. Then the right interpreter is a game changer. So the right person, the right social status, the right gender, right age are all key factors. And because all your medical has to pass through that person. Medicine is not easy to teach and translate. And trust came over time and action, not just titles. Only then change becomes possible. And the discussion becomes about what works, not allow you to just provide a course. Basically, it's about working together and working with them, and not to prove just that your way is better, but let them understand that your way or the way that you found for them, it's functional and operational.
Thank you, sir. One of the quotes or one of the points that you brought up in your discussion was just the reality of adjusting TCCC to actually be successful. And you spoke of it being your North Star. Could you explain just a little bit more about the reality of adjusting TCCC to the operational environment and partner operations to be successful?
So if you remember, back in the days, there was this saying about the Afghan good. The Afghan good enough. When I heard it for the first time, my question was how I can apply a rigid advanced protocol to this good enough. Is there a minimal acceptable standard, then better and then best, or simply the best or nothing? Another question is, are we able to teach and apply TT-Pro-C to everyone and everywhere? If the protocol is not supported by a logistical system, and when you have constraints like legal restriction, medical background, equipment, resupply, evacuation, and support, it becomes very, very difficult. So not in every country, for example, medics are allowed to perform all life-saving intervention. And at recent times, countries in conflict have adapted their medical procedure during war, not before. Evacuation and follow-on care could change everything. If a full standard is unrealistic, what is the contingency plan? You must find a solution. Otherwise, you are not being successful. You are basically just teaching a good protocol, but in the moment where you have to apply, you cannot apply it, basically. And everything must be approved from the chain of command. And your job is like to identify the gap, but not decide alone. Always you have to follow policy, the mission, the intent. Any adaptation still had to remain in these boundaries. And the standards, they stay the same. So we are not talking about lowering the standard, but about doing a comparison about what the protocol says and what is actually applicable in that specific environment.
Great perspective. One last thing, Sal. You and I have spoken on the subject of improvisation before, and I really respect your thoughts here. But could you expand on the idea of soft medics improvising in concepts or principles or in even treatments?
Yes, so a very important thing is a soft medic does not invent medicine. So for me, adaptation or improvisation is not making medicine up. We have to start from a clear principle, understand why the protocol works, then find the real constraint or limitation, identify what is missing, and how this is affecting medical care. As I said before, we don't have to decide alone. We have to discuss, get approval, and look for evidence-based medicine. The decision has to be aligned with the common structure to achieve your goal. The goal is to maintain the same high standard, but make it sustainable. Principle give a way to think when the textbooks or the protocols disappears.
Excellent. Thank you. I think this is a very valuable experience and perspective, Sal. Actual impact and reality versus conceptual impact. And that comes down to mission analysis, the human domain, and some emotional quotient, and trusting your own judgment. You and I both know that medical military assistance in foreign internal defense occurs with medics and corpsmen about 80% of the time. So these thoughts and almost a philosophy were exceptional. Ladies and gentlemen, Sal has also recommended a couple of works to read for further ideas, and we will put those into the podcast notes. Sal, thank you for your thoughts and a well-stated perspective on the more intangible aspects of partner operations and medical training. No doubt this can assist others at any level. The best to you and your family.
Thank you, Mike, for the invitation again and for the conversation.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and consideration of thoughts and perspectives on partner operations. The very best to you, your work and families, and to our efforts in solving these very complex medical and operational challenges for irregular warfare. Thank you for listening to this MSIW program, and we hope that you will both participate and contribute to the notes or offer thoughts, requests, and suggestions via our email link. The best to you, your work, and the relationships and security this effort strives to impact.